All right, guys. Uh, I am gonna try and explain how to interpret a spectral sensitivity curve for black and white film, and how to use that information to apply or to use colored filters, and how you can read these graphs and use that information to interpret how these filters will impact the specific film that you might be using. Because these have different effects on different films. And I'm going to do the best that I can to keep it short and sweet and informative without going on too long. There's a couple things that you're going to need to do this. One is the data sheet for whatever film you're using. I got a couple here. I got T-Max 400. This is for Rolly Infrared, FOMA 200, and Ilford Pan F. A little bit of everything here. You can download these. All you have to do is search whatever FOMA Pan 200 data sheet, and you will get. There's a ton of information in here, not just the spectral sensitivity curves, but everything that you need to know about that particular film from the people who made it. Far better than massive dev chart or just asking random people on the internet. The other thing that you're going to want is to print out one of these. I mean, this is a visual aid. Not necessary, but I can't, for me, this is the only real way that I can get a grasp on it. I'm a visual learner, so I need to see these things. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. I just printed these out, and then I kind of traced out the different films' curves on here to use as a visual reference when I was learning this stuff to try and understand what this stuff means. So one of these is helpful, your data sheet. A color wheel. This is just out of a book that I have, but you don't have to pay for any of this. This is all, you just search it and you can get it. You just need a visual reference is extremely helpful. And then lastly, a filter wavelength cut chart. This shows you the frequencies that or the wavelengths that each filter cuts out. This book is from like the 60s, I think, 62 or 64, something like that. You can look this up. Hoya filters. They do a bunch of scientific stuff. That's a chart that I get online. You can search around for filter transmission frequency chart, and you can find these easily. They give you the frequency that cuts out. It's pretty simple stuff. It's easy. So let's just get on with this show. So the star of the show here, what you're really trying to find out is what this means. What these, god damn it, come on, man. I guess am I too close here? Okay. Trying to understand what this is and how that affects your images. This is what kind of perplexed me for so long, and I didn't understand what was happening. I was using some filters on some film, and I was getting results that I liked, and then I would use the same filter on another film, and it didn't act the same. It was more or less, and I couldn't figure out why. It was like, you look online, it's like, well, yellow darkens the sky a little bit, orange darkens it more, red darkens it more, deep red darkens it more, and then infrared. And that's basically it. So, when I started looking around, I started finding all these sensitivity curves, and it took a while to figure out what all this stuff meant, because it didn't seem to be a really clear, simple explanation. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and simplify this and show you how to read this. So let's, which one do I want to do here? We'll do the T-Max. So the short end of this, the most simple way to put this forward is that the peaks are more sensitive, which means it's going to be a lighter shade of gray, and the dips are less sensitive, so that means it's going to be darker. And if you look at these, at the peaks here, they coincide with your primaries, and they dip kind of in the transitions from one major color to another. And the reason that is to help separate the tones in an image. If it was just a flat curve going across here, the picture, the image would just be straight gray. And this curve is what gives you a separation of tones. Now, T-Max, for example, is known for having the look of a standard panchromatic film with a yellow filter on it, and you can see right here why. There's a big dip in the blue, so that means the blue sky is going to be less sensitive to that, so it's going to make it darker naturally just because of the characteristic of the curve. And then when you go and you apply, say, a yellow green, a yellow, an orange, a light red filter, they're going to have an accentuated effect because it is more sensitive within these specific wavelengths. So you can look at a film curve like this, and you can see right off the bat where these peaks line up that it's going to be very responsive to filters of green, yellow, orange, light orange, orange, dark orange, or light red. Once you get out past 600, 650, it drops off. This is what made me try to understand this, because I wanted to get like this really dark sky, high contrast look, and I was putting light red and dark red filters on here, and I wasn't getting any more of an effect than I was with a dark orange filter, and it didn't make any sense. I didn't understand why. And then I started finding out what this meant. I started looking at this curve here and trying to interpret what that meant and how I could go about getting the look that I wanted on film. And so this is how you do it. You look at this and you make a decision based on this information here, whether or not this can do what you want it to do. That's what these are for. So when you're looking at this, the way that you apply the color wheel to filtering is with complementary colors. The most simple way to understand this is that, so let's say you put a red filter on. Everything on this side, you put whatever filter you're on in the middle here, on the top. Whatever is on this half is going to be lightened, and whatever is on this half is going to be darkened. It's going to be affected by the film curve, how much each of these colors is darkened and how much of each of these is lightened, and you'll have to look at your specific film curve, sensitivity curve, to understand that. But this will give you a really good, it'll get you on the right page at least, and it'll take a lot of the guesswork out. So that way when you get images back after you've looked at this stuff and made a decision, you can say, okay, I know why this is happening, and I know how I can change my time of day, or change my lighting, or change the temperature of my lighting to get a different look, or to achieve the look I'm going for. If you're going to put a yellow filter on there, then you're going to do it like this. Then if you're going to do a yellow, each one on each side is going to get lightened a little bit less than the yellow, and then it's going to go lighter, lighter, darker, darker, like that. Blue, green. Okay, these are usually mostly used in color photography for color correction, like cyan, blue, magenta, but they're there. So you can look at a few of these. This is a very modern emulsion. Let's go back, say, how Pan F's been around for like 90 years. It's been around for a long time. This is what the film curve of a bygone era looks like. When you compare the two of these, you can see right off, this is modern. This is a modern high contrast, kind of sharp, biting film curve. This here is that classic, like if you look at the peaks, so you see we have blue sensitivity. Look at the peaks in here. They're almost exactly the same. So you have like this, you look at this film curve, and you can see right off the bat, when you look at this is going to be a very even and smooth gradation in your tones. It's going to be very even across the board, and you're going to have a lot of mid-tone separation. It's not very red sensitive, so it's not going to be responsive to anything very much more than a light orange, dark yellow filter. It's going to blow your skies out a lot easier because it's a lot more blue sensitivity, so it's going to be more difficult to achieve separation between the clouds and the blue sky. So you could see these just from looking at this. Now, FOMA 200, this is a really unique, I haven't seen, of all the film curves I looked at, I haven't seen another one like this, and I could see why they call it Creative, FOMA Pan Creative 200. This is kind of a, it's different. It's different. So this is a really unique curve in that it's kind of works its way up, becoming more and more sensitive, kind of in cue with the photon energy of the light spectrum. As you can see, when you go from blue to red light, you're losing photon energy. So even though this looks like you're getting more and more and more and more sensitive, the light is losing intensity. So this would actually play out to be a really flat film, because it's, as the energy is going down, the sensitivity is going up, so they kind of cancel each other out. So I've never shot this before, but looking at this curve and looking at the photon energy level below it, it would probably be pretty flat. However, it's got a lot of red sensitivity, which means it would probably respond really well to everything from yellow to a deep red filter. And then one of my favorite types of film, infrared extended red sensitivity film. Films like this, like Rolly Infrared or Retro 400 or 80 or Super Pan 200 or I think it's Silbera films. Those are surveillance films of some sort, probably military surveillance, and also Japan Camera Hunter Street Pan. This is a really wide spectrum. I mean, this starts in the 300s and runs all the way out to the 800s. So this spans the entire visible light spectrum. And as you can see here, the spectrum that the eye is really tuned to is right here, from blue, from just after the transition from violet to blue into green to yellow. The red we don't see, the violet we really don't see, but this, the effects that you get and the look that you can get from a film like this that is so highly sensitive, you can see that this would respond really well to everything in here except like a greenish filter, because it doesn't have much sensitivity to it. But everything else, man, this would, and I like using light red, dark red, infrared, yellow filter with a polarizer on it. Like, you can get a lot of really cool looks because this film has sensitivity all over the place, which means it's very versatile, and depending on your processing, you can do that. You can get a lot out of it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I went a little longer than I wanted to, but this is how you look. This is how you look at a chart and get a feel for what this film is going to be like in actual use. This is what these are for. A lot of the questions that I see asked around are clearly answered in these, and in very clear detail. Like, I think if everybody shooting film actually read these data sheets, I can only imagine the level that most people would be on, after reading this, and the kind of understanding they have. But, it is what it is. So hopefully this may be of some use. I know that I could have this would have really helped me out a lot if I could have just got a real, kind of a quick and dirty explanation of how this works. And, the one thing that I didn't touch on, the filters, the way they work is they're a cut filter. Yellow filter cuts everything up to yellow. So all of this gets cut down, and anything that's coming through gets a yellow wavelength put on it. Everything gets filtered out except the yellow. Everything from yellow down to red. And then as you continue to go on, you put an orange, it cuts everything from say 590 or 600 forward. And then the red, you go deeper and deeper. So what happens is you're cutting, and so you're narrowing out the band of sensitivity that you're working on. So as you're putting filters on, you're cutting, and then all of a sudden your film curve goes from this to this, or from this to this, and this is the part of the film that you're working with. And this is what filters do. And that's why you have to apply a filter factor, because you're essentially trimming off all but a very specific. You put a blue. Let's say you want to capture the mist in the morning. You put a blue filter on. So you're doing your blue and you're filtering out everything else. You put a green on. You're filtering out a yellow, and so you're decreasing the overall sensitivity. That's why you need to factor that. You end up on a tripod, long exposure times. These are the things that will help you to understand what it is. You look at the Hoya filter transmission cut chart. Look at your film data sheets, and think about it. Look at this stuff. Look at how they work together. And, make an informed decision about the images that you're trying to make. Ultimately, you can do all this math and look at all these numbers, but the end goal is to make an image that has a look or an aesthetic or a feeling that you are trying to convey. That's what this stuff is for. This information is to help you make an image that you can feel whatever it is that you were feeling, whatever it is that you wanted to convey when you looked at a scene and you thought, man, I really want to make this image, but I can't do it with this film the way it is, or with the developer that I have. You have to apply something else. Looking at these and understanding what your options are and how they will affect what you're trying to make will help you to get closer to the image that you're trying to make. That's the point of this. So I hope that this is of some use.